Welcome back to This Day Live, the Sunday talk show here on the Arise News channel. With me in the studio, I have Professor Bola Akinterenwa, Director General, Bolitag Center for International Diplomacy and Strategic Studies, Yemi Adamolekun, Executive Director, Enough is Enough, and Professor David Awurawo, Professor of International Relations and Strategic Studies at the University of Lagos. Well, Professor Awurawo, let me come to you first. We have had two guests, and both guests had a lot to say. Professor Usman Yusuf, basically about the insecurity in the country, and also the call on President Muhammadu Buhari by the Northern Elders Forum to resign, and then also, 2023 elections in the context of insecurity in the country. And we had a former Speaker of the House of Representatives in the Third Republic, Chief Agunwa Nekwe, who made a strong case for Igbo presidency. He says other aspirants, particularly within his party, should show courage and allow the Southeast to take that position. And he says his own choice is a man who is planning to declare on Tuesday Dr. Chris Ngige, Minister of Labor and Employment. And I had warned him that ASU members may not be so excited, but you never know. Maybe you are. But quickly, some of those issues, if you could speak to them first.
Yeah, last week we discussed this insecurity issue, which has not abated. Every day the reports, that come to the public sphere is that of killings. If they're not killing in Benue, they are killing in Plateau, or they are kidnapping people in Kaduna, or they are invading train and all that. And, when the train attack took place 2 weeks ago, we were thinking that that would be a time that would say enough is enough. And we begin to see, real military action against these terrorists that would, bring them to their knees so that our people can live in peace. But 2 weeks have passed, and no major change has taken place. Since then, rather, we have had an intensification of violence across the country. In fact, shortly after that, they attacked the military, killing 12 of our military men. And unfortunately, not much change has taken place. Not much difference has been made in the approach to tackling the terrorists. And so when the Northern Elders Forum came out to say, the president should resign, he has demonstrated extreme incompetence. He has failed to provide the most basic of what a government should provide, which is security for his people. It's difficult to really fault them, because which aspect of Nigerian life do you want to talk about? That the story will not be that of woes and lamentation. Apart from the insecurity issue, see the economic, the state of the economy of the country. And when you hear that 4 trillion naira will be used to subsidize only petroleum product of 2022, is that not alarming? And when you put that side by side, the level of poverty in the country, and side by side the debts, the mounting debts that we are saddled with, and the percentage of our national revenue that is now used to service debts. When you put all of these things together, it is difficult to fault the Northern Elders Forum in their position that the president should resign. But of course, no president has ever resigned in this manner. I think they too know that what they seek to achieve is to make such comments to pressurize the government. Make such comments, pressurize the president, pressurize the government to do better than they are doing now. Well, if we are to follow what the lessons of history teach with this government, we are not sure not much difference will take place, but we hope they'll prove us wrong this time so that we are a pleasant surprise. That this calls for resignation, this pressure from all different sectors of the Nigerian society for the government to do better, she actually compel it to do so. In the past couple of months, the president has been talking about legacy. Unfortunately, there is nothing that has taken place that to suggest that a major difference will be made for that legacy he has spoken about persistently will indeed come to fruition. But we can only wait and see. We can only continue to speak the way we are speaking. that Nigerians are bleeding. The government needs to do better. Now, regarding the declaration, those who want to become Nigeria president, by the way, we spoke on Sunday, and then on Monday, the vice president declared his intention to contest. Well, he has made his point. It's a 65-year-old who is the sitting vice president. I mean, you will not be fair if you say he should not at least try. And let's see how far it goes. And we're considering the performance of the government. You have a major challenge to detach himself from the current state of things and present himself as a candidate to be able to lift Nigeria from, its current level. As for Igbo presidency, yes, there is a persuasive argument along that. Let's also think of 1999. 1999 till now, no man from the from the southeast has served either as president or vice president. The southwest has managed to have 8 years of Obasanjo as president and now 7 years of Oshibajo as vice president. And the northwest has also had its own, where Yaradua was there, and then of course Buhari is there now. So the Igbo have a strong case to say, well, if there is an understanding, an ethical consideration that it should be north and south, but that same token, when it comes to the south this time, since southwest has had, south has had, 5 years of Jonathan presidency, then there should be this narrow conceding to the southeast. It's a persuasive argument, but of course the counter argument is competence. That the point we are now is competence we should look for, and not the ethnic background of the candidate. But of course, the other argument will also be that there are competent people in the southeast. For instance, Obi, there seems to be some consensus that Obi has proven to be a man who can deliver, and that why not him? So the argument is strong and it's persuasive. But again, in politics, it's not a matter of bread and butter. It's not given. You go for it. Let's see, as the argument is being made, let's see how Nigerians respond and whether the argument is strong enough to persuade Nigerians to say, okay, let us let the Southeast have a shot at this time. Those are my thoughts on those two issues.
Okay, quickly, Professor Akintenwa.
Let me take off from where my brother, Professor Awora, stopped. Bread and butter. Politics is not about that. Politics is bread and butter, but defined by fairness, justice. That's the critical point there. You see, starting from the point of view of the former speaker, Shifanekwe, I like his submission to a great extent. You see, I don't know whether we people of Nigeria are sincere or good enough in determining the direction of politics in Nigeria. There are two critical challenges that we have consciously kept in the drawer. We are not talking about that. At the level of the northern attitude to Igbo candidacy, there is this circulating information that because of the attitude of the coup plotters, in 1966, the way Tafawa Balewa was mistreated and so on and so forth, and Tafawa Balewa now had to make it clear that you, Igbo people, like Moses in the Bible, thou shalt see, but thou shalt not get there. He was quoted as saying, well, 20 years from now, they wouldn't get there. This has been in the mentality of many people. Rightly or wrongly, this is one dynamic people have been sidetracking. The second one is that many Nigerians, either jokingly or otherwise, they have given meaning to Igbo. Igbo, IBO, that is I before others. So people now believe that if you put an Igbo man in a position of, any political appointment, that they have the mentality of I before others.
No,
whereas
that's unfair stereotyping.
No, I'm coming.
Characterization.
No, I am kicking against it. That's the point I'm telling you.
I know.
I kick against it vehemently. That's why I say we people of Nigeria, that we are not good in this particular case. We are not being fair. But when people jokingly carve out a meaning for all these things and they begin to spread, people will take it as reality. And I am saying that, at least in this particular case, look, why wouldn't want anybody support, for instance, fairness and justice, which they are asking for? The mere fact that even if it is microzoned, to southeast, that will still depend on national voting. That's where I was quite right to say they need to work harder. So, left for me, all these candidates are good. And when Professor Yusuf talked about Professor Osinbajo, the VP, wanting to complete, sustain, continue where President Buhari stops. Look, people do not understand that particular statement. Completing is very consistent in normal policies. Why wouldn't you want to complete what you have started? The only thing now is that I think my understanding of Professor Osinbajo's point is that, look, what had been started will not be allowed to be spoiled, will be completed, while he will now put his own, add value to it. You see, let me say that when you are completing an agenda, your own attitudinal disposition is there. Following Buhari, because people say, Professor Yusuf said, it is the totality of the Buhari government that should be removed. That is one hypothesis, is there. But the issue is that when you ask Buhari to resign and he resigns, does that one solve the problem? It does not. It doesn't at all. It is simply because all the analysts so far, I want to strongly pause it here, are missing the point. I stay by what Muammar Gaddafi, I've said it here, had said that, look, Nigeria will not have any enduring peace for as long as Nigeria remains undivided. That Nigeria must be divided into Muslim North and Christian South. Now, when you take that one as one side of the coin, Chief Olusegun Obasanjo has told us that President Muhammadu Buhari has a Fulanization agenda. Now you now have Fulanization agenda as one side of the coin. Then Muammar Gaddafi's position of Islamic North, Christian South there. Now, if you want security in Nigeria, you must address these hypotheses. We must find out what informed Muammar Gaddafi's postulation that there will never be peace. I'm quoting him, is there. Now, if a head of state said this, and after the Libyan crisis, before it degenerated into a conflict, all those fighting there, they moved towards the Sahel, and they are now in Nigeria. Now, the bandits you are talking about, the Boko Haramis you are talking about in Nigeria, they are certainly working towards Islamization. So, if you are looking for peace, etc. along, we need to sit down and look at these issues critically. Well, we don't have time, but the issue raised by Professor Yusuf and the former speaker. Yes, I like some two critical points there, and I'll be very fast on that, quick on that. Now, Tafawa Balewa, no, let me leave that. All candidates are qualified. We are only looking for the best. But the issue, when you look at federal character principle, when you look at what is happening here, it is not that any given region in this country does not have, thousands of competent people. But how do you do that we need fairness and justice in selecting that.
Well, Yemi, quickly, let me come to you.
Right. I'll start with this, really, maybe a bit from where Prof left. It was Professor Awurawa that said, Nigerians are bleeding, government needs to do better. And then Professor Yusuf also talked about the government should. And I think we really just need to be honest with ourselves. There have been several conversations around the need for an elite consensus around what is best for Nigeria. But what we have is an elite consensus around injustice. And we keep dancing around it, expecting the same people to do different things because we are talking a lot about it. I'm not quite sure why the president should resign. There's no threat to him. There's no political cost for him not doing his job. Then this whole idea of the fact that if a president is from a certain region, that region benefits. I don't know why we believe that, because the data clearly states the contrary. President Muhammadu Buhari is from the Northwest, Katsina. The Northwest has been under fire for most of his reign. He hasn't done anything about it. He hasn't left Aso Rock to move to try and protect the people in Katsina or Zamfara or Kaduna. That's all his zone. When President Obasanjo was president, the Southwest didn't benefit from him in any material way that people can point to because he came from the Southwest. The Yar'Adua that Professor Awurawa referred to, or was it the former speaker, was from the Northwest, but benefited the South-South when he did the amnesty. So this warped thing that we have convinced ourselves that the president from our region automatically means that President Muhammadu Buhari is the one completing the second Niger bridge, that neither President Jonathan or any southern president completed. So I think
Katsina benefited immensely from Buhari.
Because they're assigning all sorts of universities there that have no funding. Well, look, for me, and I can agree with you in terms of maybe what is allocated on the pages of a budget. Okay. But if you speak to the people who are in the Northwest, who are being killed, because the context of this is insecurity. So I completely disagree that when it comes to security, that the Northwest has benefited from having a former military head of state and the commander-in-chief at the helm of affairs. That, I think the data speaks to that very clearly. And then the second thing that the former speaker speaks about that I thought was a bit humorous was this whole notion that they are all eminently qualified. Please, on what basis? What are we judging qualifications? That they went to school, that they've been a minister, that they've been a senator, that makes you qualified to lead the Federal Republic of Nigeria? I'm sorry, I beg to disagree. Minister Mechi was a case in point. We have a train terrorist attack. Till today, there's still no manifest. And I remember that we commemorated the 8th year anniversary of the Chibok abduction on Thursday. And that was a big thing when the Chibok girls were abducted, until there was a final manifest that said there were 276 girls. People couldn't believe that many number of children were taken from a school. But we have actual names, and we had pictures. Until today, we're tracking them, and there's still 109 missing. But for this train incident, I think it was Professor Yusuf that said it, 300 and something people on a manifest, but they said there were 970 people on the train. Yes. Okay, so who are these people? Where are they? Do we have a reading on where we are? The federal government has said absolutely nothing. Again, this is built on the context of the fact that we don't have a missing persons register. Of all the people that have been killed or are missing across the country, there's no central database. Again, we don't have a census. So I think and that happens, and Minister Mechi declares the next day, and nobody's asking him any questions, and we think that's being qualified to lead a country. I struggle with that very, very much so. And then another issue that Professor Yusuf mentioned that we really need to start thinking about is the credibility of our elections. Unfortunately, we don't have a minimum threshold for what constitutes an election. So if 10 people show up to vote in Katsina, it's the 10 votes they will count, and we will declare a winner. If 5 people show up, we will declare a winner. So it's not that it's not credible. It's a credible election. 5 people showed up. We can show you how they voted. But does it have legitimacy? Now, but we're not talking about that because, unfortunately, none of our laws speak to the legitimacy of an election. So we can easily have elections in 30 states in 2023. There'll be no issue. Or in some local governments in some states and not completely in all other states. And then lastly, I'd like to say, on the advocating for an Igbo presidency, I think while I understand the sentiment, I think it would be so much easier if the the Southeast could have been a model of what Nigeria could be. Because we've reduced from zoning to ethnic affiliations, what Nigeria, a country of 200 million people that is lagging behind relative to its resources, needs to take it into the 21st century. We're not discussing policies, we're not discussing ideas, we're not discussing their dreams for the future. We're discussing the fact that the person was a former minister or the person is Igbo, therefore they're eminently qualified to lead Nigeria. We have turned leading Nigeria into I don't even know the word to use, but anyway.
Well, very quickly, well said. Let's take our next topic. The Biden administration has given the green light for Nigeria to buy advanced attack helicopters worth nearly $1 billion. And this development has come despite concerns about the country's human rights record as it battles threats from criminal gangs and extremists in the north. The State Department on Thursday announced the approval of the $997 million sale of 24 Bell AH-1Z Viper helicopters and related equipment to Nigeria, including night vision and targeting systems, as well as engines and training support, the department said in a notice to Congress. The sale went ahead after last November's visit to Abuja by Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, during which he raised concerns about Nigeria's rights record. At the time, though, Blinken also made clear that the United States regards Nigeria as a partner in combating terrorism and Islamic extremism in West Africa and its Sahel, a region along the Sahara Desert stretching across in North Africa, and is looking to increase cooperation with it in those areas. Well, how much of a new chapter would this represent in U.S.-Nigeria relations, Prof? Considering the fact that before now, both Republicans and Democrats on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee didn't want any further sale of arms to Nigeria because they thought the administration was becoming authoritarian. But now, this approval has been given. We're going to get Viper and Cobra helicopters, precision, targeting weapons. And then in addition to this, the U.S. says it will make available about $25 billion to cover training for Nigerian military, particularly in international humanitarian law and basic laws of conflict. But how significant is this? Would these helicopters be put to use? Because the Tucano jets that we bought the other time, questions have been raised about the refusal to deploy those Tucano jets.
You see, Ruben, you have asked a very important strategic question, and the answer must be raised at different levels. It is a desideratum for the United States to have accepted immediately to have a closer entente with Nigeria. Why? The situational reality of the Russo-Ukrainian war requires United States to ensure, closer ties, understanding, especially with a country like Nigeria. Why? This simply because in West Africa in particular, Africa in general, the Francophone countries are having a great misunderstanding with France, and they have now tried, for instance, to push France out, asking French troops to withdraw. And this has led to a country like Mali, for instance, to invite Russian mercenaries. So Russian mercenaries are operating in many countries in West Africa. So which means now that the French government that kicked against any Russian involvement in West Africa, Russian presence in West Africa. Now, if they do not try as much as possible to contain the expansion of Russian influence in West Africa, then that will become a permanent headache for the US, especially in light of the emerging new Cold War. So it is in this case that one must seek to understand American strategy of partnering with Nigeria, in this case, to contain the long, emerging conflict between the East and Russia. Secondly, one level of analysis is that, like you rightly pointed out, the Tucano saga is there. At the level of Tucano, it cannot be freely used in Northwest. It is clearly stated in the agreement that this Tucano is meant for Northeast only. Now we have the Cobra helicopter. This time, the conditionality is that, yes, Nigeria will not use this to prevent collateral damage for civilians, human rights, international humanitarian law, and in this case, the conditions are there. But what is perturbing, what I find difficult in it, is that, look, they are going to bring contractors, or what they call U.S. representatives, who will be here for about 2 years or 3 to engage in training. This Cobra helicopter will not be immediately available. And the institutional support training that you have talked about is going to be there for 5 years. So this Cobra helicopter may not be quickly useful at this point in time when critical assistance is internationally needed in Nigeria.
Well, Professor Urawa, I'll come to you now.
Yeah, it's good news. Any further assistance that our military can receive to tackle the wide-ranging security problems we have, of course, we welcome. And the other dimension to it, which is the training of Nigerians on laws of armed conflict, international humanitarian law, such that human rights abuses are not carried out using this military equipment, is also very welcoming. Well, like Professor Akinteriwa has pointed out, we do not know how quickly this equipment will be, given all the restrictions and all the regulations here and there that surround the sale and purchase of the military equipment. How quickly will they be available for use for us to tackle our security challenges? That is the other side that is disturbing, because we need something very quickly, something very urgent, something we can use now to address the problems we have, not something 2 years, 3 years time and all. Even the Tucano jet that came earlier, yes, there was the understanding that they will be used against terrorists in the Northeast, but they have not been deployed yet. And the question to ask is, will all of these bureaucracies and bottlenecks here and there, when will all these things be available for us to tackle our security challenges? Is it when all the people have been wiped out that we'll have them for use? So the bureaucracy is what disturbs me. But to even take the issue further, there has been this issue about collateral damage. Every day, the terrorists are abducting more people and bringing them to their camps, and we're talking about collateral damage. Whatever happened to the training, like the Israelis have, where they are able to storm, hostage holders and liberate those who are held hostage and, decimate those who are holding them hostage? Israelis are not spirits. How come attention has not been focused on that? Training that will enable our military men to be able to do that. So, well, to summarize, is a welcoming development, because any asset we need now to tackle the security challenges we have is welcome. But we hope that the bureaucracy will not be too complicated, such that these equipment will be put to use very quickly.
Well, Yemi Adamolo, your take.
Really simply, I think it's just a reminder that the U.S. does what is in the U.S.'s best interest at all times. And Nigeria will do well to be mindful of that as they engage. But I think more importantly, I don't believe our security challenges are a function of equipment. I know we do have equipment challenges, but I think it's more a function of leadership and clear thought about what to do and engagement. The equipment come alongside to help you implement what you want to do. But fundamentally, it doesn't seem like we have a plan, neither are we particularly interested in securing the country. So I'm not particularly excited about the fact that we're buying more stuff.
Okay, well, this next topic, our guest, Chief Anekwe, commented on it, but I wanted your input also on the same subject. And it has to do with the statement by human rights activist and senior advocate of Nigeria, Femi Falana, who has asked President Muhammadu Buhari to free all petty thieves and criminals in detention. Falana spoke in Lagos on Friday at the one-year remembrance held in honor of late former Afenifere spokesperson Yinka Odumake in reaction to the state pardon granted a former governor of Taraba State, Jolly Nyame, and former governor of Plateau State, Joshua Dariye, alongside 157 others by the Council of State. Yemi, let me start with you, quickly.
But I mean, Mr. Falana's sentiments make perfect sense. I think under President Jonathan, one person was pardoned, one former governor, Alamesega, was pardoned.
And that was controversial.
Not only controversial, current minister Festus Keyamo made a comment about it around what it speaks to for that administration. But I think more importantly for us is that the Buhari administration came in fighting three things. Corruption, or wanted to deal with it, three things. Security failed woefully, economy failed woefully, and corruption. And this is a real good sort of scorecard on your sentiment towards corruption. And we've seen it throughout the course of the administration. Goje, for example, EFCC was after him. Suddenly he drops his bid to be Senate president or something. EFCC drops their case. The current chairman of the APC had EFCC charges as well. So the pattern is there that people who are prominent members of this party continue to be people who either had cases. We have a few ministers as well who decamped to APC and suddenly their corruption charges get dropped. So I think in the last hours of President Buhari's administration that he would do this is a very interesting signal about his belief and his commitment to fighting corruption. And Mr. Falana's point is that if people who can steal the country's resources can be let go, why are you keeping a young man who stole food because he's hungry? Makes sense to me.
Prof. Akinterowa.
I cannot agree more with her. You see, the issue is that in Nigeria, somebody who stole dry, emptied public treasury, you name barracks after them. You have Sani Abacha barracks. You have all these barracks. You have streets names after them. Why is it that we glorify indiscipline, insincerity, and we are fighting corruption? So it's not that I disagree with Femi Falana's position. The issue is that you have 100 thieves in Liberty. Now you want to open the prison again to add to the number of thieves. No, I am totally against the pardon, the presidential pardon. There's no pardon for all these things. It is because we people who refuse to steal that they see us as foolish people, that we are poor. No, you don't have to go to any school of thievery to steal. You can steal. But those who are given the opportunity to work, they abuse the office. Yeah. There should be discipline. Exactly. There shouldn't be any pardon. The conclusion there is this. It is only a thief that can trace the steps, the rules of other thieves. Well, if the president can pardon a convicted person guilty
and allow them to come back
and allow to come to something, then we should ask questions. The president must answer Nigerians.
Well, except that the prerogative of mercy is a constitutional function under Section 175. And it's an executive function. And, it's at the discretion of the president as endorsed by the Council of State. So it's not as if it's not as if the president has broken any law.
No, Ruben, he has not broken any law. We're only saying that contrary to what he came out to
say. Let's dwell too much on this. I need to take another topic. No, Prof. I need to take Professor Awurawo. Professor Awurawo, your turn. Your point is clear. You had made
the additional point, you are raising the discretion of the president. Yes. We are not disputing that.
At all.
Okay.
Your discretion should not be used to promote corruption.
Okay, Professor Awurawo. Prof, let Professor Awurawo quickly, please, so that I can take one more subject.
The pardon is ill-advised. I don't know those who advise the president really, but when I heard it, I said it was not possible. And my friend beside me just burst into a paroxysm of laughter and said, "What is not possible? You know, in this under the current dispensation." But who advised the president to do this? In fact, I have friends in the FCC. They are angry because they spent a whole lot of money flying people from abroad. They spent tens of millions of naira to get this conviction. And the last of the appeals took place just last year, 2021, and 2022 they are pardoned. Who advised the president to do this? So the summary is that what Falana said, Falana is not, let's get him very clear. Falana is not saying that thieves should not, be punished for their offense. But what he's saying is that if people who have, stolen this much can be granted pardon, so why do you want to punish somebody who stole something so small? So it's ill-advised, and it's just, to summarize, it's just unfortunate that, just like Yemi said, a government that is supposed to, that came under the promise of fighting corruption and all that, we can have this kind of thing taking place. That is just my thoughts on this
Okay,
matter.
thank you, Professor Orawo. Quickly, let's take another topic. The British Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, says he's sorry, but he won't quit after being fined by Metropolitan Police for breaking his government's COVID-19 laws. Boris Johnson's wife, Carrie, and senior cabinet minister, Chancellor Rishi Sunak, were also penalized. In the so-called Partygate scandal, it emerged government leaders and their staff held events while the country was in lockdown.
There was a brief gathering in the cabinet room shortly after 2 p.m, lasting for less than 10 minutes, during which people I work with kindly passed on their good wishes. And I have to say, in all frankness, at that time, it did not occur to me that this might have been a breach of the rules. But of course, the police have found otherwise, and I fully respect the outcome of their investigation. I understand the anger that many will feel that I myself fell short when it came to observing the very rules which the government I lead had introduced to protect the public. And I accept in all sincerity that people had the right to expect better. I have, of course, paid the FPN, and I apologise once again for the mistake that I made. And as I've said just now, I want to be able to get on and deliver the mandate that I have, but also to tackle the problems that the country must face right now, and to make sure that we get on with delivering for the people of this country. That is my priority.
Well, he says he wants to focus on the economy, address the cost of living crisis that the UK faces at the moment, and at the same time, he wants to continue to provide leadership, in the context of the Ukraine and the Russia conflict. Well, the opposition is raising very serious questions, and perhaps when the Parliament reconvenes after the Easter holiday, this will become a big issue in the United Kingdom, because the whole point is that, look, you cannot have two sets of rules. Ministers, prime minister, breaking laws that other persons, were subjected to. And ordinary people were fined. Yes, the prime minister says he has paid his fine, but that the apology should be enough. So it doesn't look like he's going to quit. But Professor Orawo, what are the issues here beyond the abuse of privilege, power, and office?
Yes, and that is what it is. Abuse of power, privilege, and office. And that is grave. What seems to have happened is that across the world, the standard expected of leaders seems to be going down. In the good old days, Boris Johnson will not be there trying to defend the indefensible. He will have long resigned. He will be the first sitting prime minister now who will be found guilty, who will pay fine. I mean, we've never had anything like this before. And it simply speaks to, how low the standard of people who get into leadership in various countries has gone. Well, many think that is not the end of the story. and that when Parliament, reconvenes after the Easter break, a whole lot more questions will be asked. But it is so disappointing that a government will make a set of rules, and people, will be punished on the basis of those rules. And those same people make the rules, think they can break the rules with impunity, if not for, some very careful prying into what took place and all that. Nobody would have known. So people were being kept indoors while they were there partying. Well, I hope that more questions will be asked than what the Prime Minister has said and the apology he has given. But it is so disappointing that in this age and time, those who govern can think that a set of rules will apply to the rest of the country, while they will have some special set of rules that will apply to them.
Yemi.
Well, I mean, it's interesting. I think what the opposition does with it and what his party members do with it will be interesting to see. But I do agree with you that the standards, I mean, we're sitting here talking about how very bad. That's how can someone have a set of rules? We just talked about our president pardoning pardoning thieves or crooks that were convicted. So interesting dynamics in terms of sort of the world's ability to stretch what is acceptable behavior and how the personal responsibility that is accepted. So as Mr. Awora said, in another time, a prime minister would have resigned, and that would have been expected. In this time, the fact that he doesn't resign might not get too many people batting an eyelid. People say, well, he paid the fine. It's really not that bad. Let him continue. So it'll be interesting to see, though, what his party actually... He's not my prime minister, so it'll be interesting to see the people he represents, what they do with it.
Prof?
You see, at the level of Boris Johnson, 3 pillars of issues: ignorance, apology, mandate. At the level of the opposition and the general people, the issue now is strong institution. Ignorance, Boris Johnson said, when the party was held, he did not know that it was in contravention of a rule that, look, he was in his office, he had to go there and join them. So ignorance, though not tenable in law, but he admitted. And that admission prompted him to apologize. Even on the basis of that apology, he should have been forgiven completely. But they still find him. And he now said, well, I've apologized, but I have a mandate. I was voted in, and I must ensure execution of my mandate. The people, the opposition, is not in disagreement. We allow that, but you must be sanctioned. It was fine. So the lesson for Nigeria is so clear. In Britain as it is, whether the leadership quality standard is being lowered, the institutions do work. In Nigeria, they don't. Who will sanction ministers for doing the wrong thing? But there, you can do it, but the law will catch up with you. So this is the lesson we should draw from these advanced countries. Certainly, you don't make laws for some people while you remain above law. And that is the problem here in Nigeria, where, for instance, you are in politics, you are in government position, then you try, for instance, to do precisely what you are preaching against. Not acceptable.
Well, thank you very much, Professor Akintenwa. Thank you, Yemi Adamolekun, and thank you, Professor David Awurawo. You've been watching This Day Live, the Sunday talk show, here on Arise News. I'm Ruben Abati. From our entire team here in Lagos, it's bye for now, and thank you very much for watching. See you again next week.